And to take a further look at the issues surrounding the Electoral Amendment Bill 2021, I am being joined on the news at 10 by a former member of the House of Representatives and senior advocate of Nigeria, Dr. Ehiogi West Idahosa. Thank you for being with us on the news at 10.
Thank you very much.
I guess the most appropriate place to start would be to ask if you were taken by surprise with the president's action.
Well, not at all, because the president's action was a political decision arising from creative tension in the political system. That's understandable. What I think is surprising is the reaction of senior lawmakers who immediately started calling to override the veto of the president, in spite of the provisions of the rules, which allow them enough time to study the reaction of the president, and then if they do reject the reaction of the president after considering same, they can then begin to think about the possibility of overriding the veto. We are not there yet at all. We are not there.
And from what you say, the choices before the National Assembly seem to be clear. Which one will you be recommending?
Well, the choice is clear. Beyond the constitutional provision, which talks about the fact that the Assembly can override the veto, the rules of both houses are clear. Order 12 of the House rules, and I think 87 of the Senate rules make it clear that when the president rises to propose amendments or to give reasons for not signing, then both houses have a duty to look at it, consider it, in the case of the Senate, by its conference committee, in the case of the House, by the House as a whole. And then at the end of that, if they are not satisfied by the reasons given, and they do think that that amendment proposed by the president is totally unnecessary, a decision can be made to override the veto, and each house will then begin to walk about the possibility of trying to raise two-thirds majorities to do so. Otherwise, if they consider the amendments necessary and those reasons valid, the proper thing is to refer it back to the appropriate structure of the House, which will rework the controversial clause or the obstructional clause and resend same to the president for his assent. He hasn't quite said, I am refusing in totality. He has given conditional refusal to give that assent.
Speaking of overriding veto, for clarity's sake, we heard a lawyer saying that what is needed to override a presidential veto is a simple majority of lawmakers present at a sitting. As a senior lawyer, please clear the air on this.
No, absolutely, that's not correct. Section 58, subsection 5 of the Constitution is very clear. Order 12, Rule 12 of the House rules is clear. And Order 78 of the Senate rules is also very clear. It's an absolute two-thirds majority by each house. It's not a tea party. It's not a plaything at all.
Again, for clarity's sake, what is the difference between declining assent and a veto?
Well, now, politically speaking, it's the same thing. But for the purpose of convenience, let's say that I am declining this assent, I am not signing this bill, but I have my reasons for doing so. And I am not signing this bill at all. I have no obligation to sign it. It's an outright veto, unconditional veto. It's not common in the political arena, but it can happen. Now, so if you find a situation where I have my reasons for not signing this, and these are the reasons, once you look at those reasons, please get back to me. I will then sign. That's a much understandable situation, and that's where we are right now. And that's what we call conditional decline or conditional withholding of assent. And then, of course, there have been occasions where presidents refuse to sign or give their assent and give no reason at all. That's on conditional withholding of assent, and there's nothing to talk about, no negotiation, no filibustering, nothing at all. So in that case, probably both sides begin to weigh their chances. Are we strong enough to get an override of this veto, or do we surrender and come back again?
So 2 in 1 now. In your own view, which exactly has the president done? Conditional veto or absolute veto?
Yeah,
and then you heard Governor Wike say that this assembly can never override the president. What do you think? If you can take that in one breath.
Well, what the president has done is he's given a conditional withholding of his assent. It's never so easy to say this assembly can never override a veto. When we did so in 2001 or thereabout on the NEDC, well, no one thought we could do that. So politics is dynamic. It is possible that for many reasons that override can take place, and it's also possible that for political negotiational reasons, the override can be whittled down and may never take place. So it's still a free-for-all situation.
But this particular assembly has never overridden the president before now. Would it take place? Do you see it happening?
Assemblies haven't done that. This is this is quite a weak assembly. Everybody knows. The perception is also very low in public estimation. So the possibility and probability of an override is less believable, but it's not impossible.
So before we let you go now, going forward, how do you suggest we avoid these kinds of executive legislative confrontations?
Well, it will always be there. It's part of what Bill Clinton told us at that time was part of the creative tension in the legislative community. But what I think is going on now is that there is a very pragmatic approach to resolve this responsibly and amicably in the interest of the nation. And that's why I'm happy to see both houses talking about looking at the qualifications already given, the definitions given by the president, and then getting back to the constituents, and then getting back to see how they can get this bill signed. It's critical in defense of the sanctity of our electoral system. It's a critical bill. So direct primaries or not, the most important thing is to protect the electronic transmission of results. That's the target, and the eyes must be on the target.
Dr. Ehiogi West Idahosa, thank you very much for your time and thoughts on the news at 10 on Channels Television.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.